When you stretch out on your mat to get ready for your Sidekick series, come to the back edge of your mat. The challenge in that is when you're on a raised mat or on a table in the Pilates work, you're challenged not to fall off. But the line of the back of the mat also helps set a side lying line for you. The other reason is then that your legs pike forward rather than be directly underneath of you. This is a much more advanced option with legs underneath because now the balance point on the thigh bone, on the trochanter, is incredibly precise, and it takes a whole lot of work to maintain stability through the waist and the core. And I'm going to show you that from a different angle in just a little bit. But the legs coming forward at a little bit of an angle, maybe a 45-degree angle. Okay, lining up at the back edge of the mat, I'm looking for the thigh bone and the trochanter. Remember, it's not your pelvis touching the mat, it's really your thigh bone stacked on top, right? The weight of the rib cage stacked, and the height of the collarbone tall and even out of the mat. Now, for a beginner, starting with the arm down is what I recommend for everyone, because then you can also find the length of the line of the neck. Because you have to remember you're really taking the plumb line of the spine and laying it horizontally. Now, gravity is immediately now pushing down on me from the top side down into the bottom side. Everyone is going to have some give in the waist because of that. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because that's essentially taking our plumb line and really jamming it over to one side. So, top arm presses down, allowing almost like a feeling of a jack to lift the upper waist and rib cage on the mat, on the bottom side, okay? Now, depending on how much curvature your side body has, which mine has a decent amount, right? That is going to dictate how much of my lower waist is or is not on the mat. Now, some of us are very narrow, some of us are curvy, some of us have broader shoulders than pelvis. So you have to be true to that body shape, side lying, and try to support the line of the spine, long, sacral to head, and through the natural curvatures of the spine. So you have to brace and work to get that bottom side to do that. Press down with the bottom side, okay? Anything touching the mat, fair game to use. Top hand, knuckle, it's going to be harder the farther out it is because it makes the rib cage and the weight fall forward. Bring it in close to you. Some people might need a block if their shoulders are really broad because you want to, again, give true honest height to your collarbone. All right. Now, once you've gotten all that figured out, you're then trying to figure out where's the weight of that pelvis, right? Okay. It's very easy and tempting to fall forward. It's very easy and tempting to fall into this kind of gravitational sinking in the waist. That's the cue to reach the top leg out over the bottom leg as much as possible. So you really are stacked ankle bone on top of ankle bone, heel level with heel. Because if I do not do that, any tightness in the outside IT band and lateral quad is really going to just kind of reel up. And then, I'm kind of making this whole Sidekick thing really much harder than it needs to be because there's going to be a whole lot of wiggling around. Now I'm going to give you a different view from more of the top so you can see what I'm talking about how we're really working stability through the core via kicking your leg around. Now you're coming at me from a different angle so you can see what I mean about how the choreography of the leg obviously is going to really work the muscles of the hips and the legs. Yes, true. But if you really want to get to advanced side body positions for your side bends, your stars, or any kind of side planking you want to do, then you have to make it about getting your torso strong and ready to be on one arm on one side. So now looking down, you see me line up. I'm going to keep my arm outstretched, right, to really help promote the idea of long. We'll talk later on about how to get all the way up, all the way up. Right? Okay, legs pike forward. Now from this angle, and just for my earphone, I'm going to turn my head just a little bit. Try not to. Try to look straight forward. Not down, not up, forward, right? Okay? I'm trying to stack up. I'm trying to lengthen tall, right? When my leg moves, I now have to control this waist space is what I like to call it, right? Okay, I'm reaching out through the top leg so that you don't see me collapsed in two, falling off the mat, falling forward on the mat. I'm ready to go. When the leg comes up just to go front and back, I now have to work on that bottom side of me pushing into the mat to keep connected, because then as the leg comes forward, any hammy tightness wants to kind of pull and change my stance, right? And you see how everything has changed in my waist space. Let's get that back out there. And then as the leg goes back, the hamstring should be engaging and the front of the hip should be opening. Now, weakness in the outer hip causes a lot of dropping, and when that happens, you have to realize now my pelvis is tipping down on that bottom side and I'm collapsing back away from. So now it's more work for me to pull everything back up through with the strength of my lateral core to bring that leg forward and back and forward and back, and going to the side kick up and down. So in parallel, everybody has a tap out of how high the leg can go before the pelvis would have to compensate to stay in parallel. So turn it out at a certain point. I like to really challenge it with saying, all right, parallel as far as you can go, and then find the external rotation to bring it up. But that waist is contracting to help at a certain point even lift the leg and lift the pelvis, but it's not falling. See that difference? Reaching up out through the leg, come down, the inner thighs really work, squeeze on the down, right? So you're really working abductors, adductors, right? Parallel, rotate, which means on the way down, turn back into that inward rotation, down. Parallel, externally rotate, bring it down, find where it rotates back into parallel and down. Now, Sidekicks choreography goes on and on and on, and the fire grows and it burns, right? It's very true. Very, very, very true. And you should absolutely feel that, otherwise what you doing? But again, I go back to the point that if you want to get strong for one-armed lateral side work, it starts in your side kicks, okay? And stick with me because I've got a few more tips to show you.